markets this morning, the story really is the downside move in the Nasdaq. It is off 165 points, and the story there is the sharp rise in interest rates on the 10-year Treasury. That's gone up to well above the 4% level. Investors, especially top investors, don't like it. It's around 412 on the 10-year. Health officials warning about possible measles exposure at some U.S. airports. Which airports are we talking about, actually?
In the Washington, D.C. area, our health officials say the potential exposure occurred in the international arrivals area of the main terminal of Dallas International Airport on January 3rd, and then at Terminal A at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport the following day. Authorities say a person with a confirmed case of measles traveled through those two very busy airports.
Okay, here we are. It's Wednesday. It's 10:41 a.m. I hope you like my little introductory epidemic sound. There it is, epidemic sound. It's 3 hours of this kind of nice little bouncy instrumental only, no vocals. It goes for 3 hours. And it's royalty free, which means that it can be, I'm rebroadcasting it in a sense. And there's no fee. There's no royalty. So that's a nice thing.
Senator Roger Marshall says of Fauci potentially misleading lawmakers this, quote, these people are frauds, and there must be consequences that fit the crime, even before this virus landed on American soil.
So it's the 17th. It's Wednesday. We're past the middle of the month of January already. Woo. We're on that glide path to when the mortgage payments due. Because you come in on the first, second, third, oh my God, you got to pay it by the 4th, or else you got a $200 penalty or something. Gosh, what a pain in the butt. But those are the facts. You only got 13 days, and it's it's coming on to the end of the month. Actually, it's 14 days, but who's counting? There you got Mr. L coming in for a landing. That's the mascot for FAU. I've been on the faculty, adjunct faculty, for 20 years. Can you imagine? I was teaching digital photography before anyone knew that they wanted to know about it. And people have, they've kind of figured out the digital thing. But, the nice thing that what I was teaching was, how to make an okay image, an amateur image, so to speak, into a really good-looking image with some tools that are commonly found in Adobe Photoshop or Photoshop Elements, even better. The amateur, the really, 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 really good amateur, Photoshop Elements is fine. It does everything that you can imagine. If you know how to do it. I wrote a book about it in 2007. It had two editions, first edition and a second edition. How cool is that? And Pearson bought it. Met with the acquisitions editor in the department head's office, and where I taught, Building 54, Earth Sciences Building. Russ Ivy is the head of science, and he's a real good guy. You know, he really helped me. He got me a classroom. He got me 25 computers ready to go with Photoshop elements installed, and we worked it out. So I charge, if I charge $300 for the class, I would give the school $100 a student out of that $300 tuition. And the rest of the money paid for my supplies, Jimmy's time. And they gave me a room for $100 a student. You know, per the 10 or 12 classes. It's usually once or twice a week. Let's say Tuesday and Thursday. And do that for 5 weeks. They had a projector thingy, which I could connect my my stuff to. And I bought a Windows computer, because I needed a certain plug to be able to plug into their overhead thing. With the proliferation of all these different, with the connectivity, the USB-C, which Apple has now introduced to the iPhone this year, first time, USB-C. So the port on the bottom edge of the iPhone is USB-C. My headphones, made by Sony. You can't see that wire, it's too small. I'll put it right between the on ear. It's a superior plug to charging on my Sony. What do you call it? Sony headphones, which are really, I would have to say, pretty darn snazzy. I have a pair of blue Sony, the XM00, 4s, and a set of the XM5s. And the nice thing about these headphones is that I went online. Let's see if I can show you. There we go, my orders. So, looking through all my orders. Mm-hmm. There we go. These WC Wicked Cushions, extra thick, expands ear pads for Sony. The WH-1000 XM4s. So I have the XM4s and XM5s. Anyway, but these guys are very nice. I was very impressed. And they're a little bit, have a little bit more height in them than the originals, but the material, is the same, it appears. And you can prize these up. They show you how to do it. They send you a video. They send you a card inside, and they ask you to scan the code to open up a video that shows you how to install them. So I got out my little trusty little tool and followed their instructions. And so it was $25. It completely refreshes, your headphones because, they're on your ears and you have all kinds of ear things, little bugs in there. No, just kidding. But they're the perfect fit. They get the engineering drawings, and they show you the cross section of how they're, there's some kind of real enhanced comfort, longer lasting cushions. But I know where to get them. So if see, the XM4s has this little guy over there, that little opening. So this cushion has that little opening also, obviously. And it's like a LED shot, so, or lightning diode, something, a photosensor, I think is the right word. There's a photosensor inside that little white doodad, that opening, and it can sense when you have the headphones on or off. And there's a setting in the setup thing where it says, like if you're listening to music and you take your headphones off, the music will stop, it'll pause right at that spot. And then when you put your headphones back on, the music resumes right at the place where it left off. So that was they figured out another way to detect whether the headphones are on or off in the XM5s because they don't have that little opening. I'm sure you were just staying up at night wondering about that, weren't you? I knew you would be. Yes, I knew you would be. Anyway, so that's my little Amazon adventure. I've come to really love Amazon. It's with the pandemic, the viruses and people coughing and sneezing, and others, another strain of the pandemic. Amazon is, you get that big pack of 12 rolls of paper towels or whatever. Amazon delivers it right to your door. You don't have to go out and get it. I will say you do end up with quite a bit of cardboard. I mean, every 2 weeks I have the cleaning people come in here and mop up all my messes. And I usually have quite a collection of cardboard. Of course, I don't buy, other than household things, I don't buy a lot of stuff because I already have all the toys. There's hardly a toy that I haven't taken apart, or cherish. The latest venture I have here, let me get it out one more time, is this frame. Turn the lights up a little bit so you can see it. It's a black frame. See, that's how it looks. And this has a little spring-loaded doodad here. And you put your iPhone right in there. So now you hold your iPhone, with some handles. And you wouldn't believe how different it is. So this is like a camera, you know, because the cameras on the iPhone are so unbelievable. When you then put this frame thing, I think newer, Neewer, newer. It's a frame that holds the iPhone, holds Android phones, comes with the handles. It doesn't come with this dude. This holds a microphone. I have a directional microphone, a very directional microphone. It's in this little Sennheiser Model 600. So in this little package is a Sennheiser microphone. Oops. There we go. There it is. Just right in here. Snaps in. It's in. And you plug it in. I need to rotate it around because there's some switches. There they are. You turn it on. This is a condenser microphone, so there's a battery in here, a AA battery. Anyway, so this plugs in here. I have a wire. It's in this bag that goes from here and then goes through this little thing and goes into the USB-C port of the iPhone. And then I have this, and then what the result is, this microphone is very directional. This is like a boom microphone that you'd see on, in fact, this is a boom microphone. Look at that. You can unscrew it. And see here, there's an Energizer lithium battery I have in there. They cost, $1.50 a piece, something like that. Anyway, so you can just screw that up. That battery's in there. It lasts for, I think, 900 hours. That's a lot of hours. So you just have to make sure you keep the switch off when you're not using it. This is if you want to have you switch this down if you have a lot of wind noise and the wind is like fluttering over the end of this. Oh, this is also a wind. It's a what they would call an acoustical transparent foam. Special foam. You replace this sucker, this foam costs $50. So you want to be careful with your foam because to replace it is expensive. So I'll have to dump all this stuff out of here. Put this back in here. There we go. This little Ziploc case was made for this microphone. Alright, that's something I'm not using anymore, but it's for this outfit. And then this right here, see, this plugs into the microphone, and this is the USB-C plug that fits into the camera, and into the iPhone, which is essentially a fantastic camera, and it also makes phone calls. That's how I look at it. I take more pictures with it than I do talk. That's about to change. I had lunch with a good personal friend yesterday, and he's associated with a building in South Florida, and they just bought the building for $100 million all cash. Wow. So that ain't hay. That's serious money. And he wants me to be on the team, the small team, that is going to handle the marketing, the sales, keep track of the inventory and so forth, which I will do for him. And I'll create a spreadsheet so that, the various things, because it's a condo conversion, which means it's a ridiculous word, because it's really an apartment conversion. The condo conversion, what is, no. It's an apartment building that's going to become a condo. So wouldn't that be an apartment conversion? Because we're an apartment conversion to condo. If you say condo conversion, a condominium from an apartment, yeah, it's just a silly vocabulary word. Anyway, it's a condo conversion, so everyone knows what we're talking about. Anyway, in a couple of weeks, we're going to nail down some of the details of that. Had a nice lunch at Houston's. Every 6 weeks or so, we have lunch at Houston's. So he said, set up another appointment with me for the end of the month, which I will do. And then we'll have a follow-up conversation about this project, and where I'll take notes, because it's an exciting thing, and there's a small nucleus of people that are going to make money. So we're on the fee side of things. The profits per unit go to the guy who wrote the $100 million check. Anyway, that's a sidebar. So looking at my, so what's happened since the last time I chatted with everybody, which was a few days ago. Let's go back here. Look at him. Trump takes the stage in Atkinson, New Hampshire, where he's rallying the troops around his victory with his Iowa. It's interesting because, you got all this litigation going on, and, Iowans are pretty conservative. It's not like San Francisco or something. It's not, on the glitzy edge of, these are hardworking people that, a lot of them are in the agronomic business. They either grow grain or they process grain or they bag it or they, whatever. In Iowa, there's a city called Pella with a P. Pella, Iowa. You ever heard of the Pella window? Well, in Pella, Iowa, they make a lot of windows. They're of the best windows made on the planet. They're really good. The hinges and the things, when you install a Pella window in your house or condo, They can't really deal with a condo. The windows are outstanding, and they get them to fit. Fit. They're made in various sizes, and they're really good. Anyway, that's Pella, Iowa. One of the people that were either Trump or the other two or three people that were running against him in the Republican primary, which is that's what we're in. We're in the primary time of the campaign schedule for 2024. And from what I've heard so far, Trump is not my favorite guy. When he ran and won in 2016, he was not number one on my list because he's a little bit of a dick. I mean, he's a wise guy. A little bit of a wise guy. That New York wise guy stuff. Well, hey, look, he's born and raised in Brooklyn, for God's sakes. Um, a nice neighborhood in Brooklyn, not a giant house. His dad's house was, a very humble house, one that you might even see in Iowa. Quite frankly, I've seen the house. I grew up about 8 or 10 streets away, not far away. With 3 wood. You drive it over the tops of the, I grew up in a nice place, I will say. My parents did just fine. I would say it would be in line. The whole neighborhood was pretty much nice. And then we moved out of our place, 321 189th Street. So that's very north of, in the Manhattan world of things. On the north, in the west, in the east, northeast of Brooklyn. Near the water, but not on the water. And then we moved to Roslyn Heights, which was the name of the subdivision, so to speak, which was on the water. The Roslyn Harbor. You can take a boat straight over the Long Island Straits and you end up in Connecticut. We had, a long time ago, 20 years ago, we stayed at a Frank Lloyd Wright house because Ronco Santric and his wife Susan bought this house, 432 Frogtown Road. You can Google it. 432 Frogtown Road, New Canaan, Connecticut. Well, this house is around 7,000 square feet, and it's got all these neat little Frank Lloyd Wright features where you turn this thing and, some vents open here, and you turn this thing over here, and some slats come this way, it took advantage of the sun, or shaded you, or heated you, or they, had water supplies that stored the heat, during the day and then pumped it through, radiator kind of coils but they're long stringy ones instead of having, this radiator that sits over in the corner of the room, percolating. Frank Lloyd Wright had, a long copper pipe with fins in it, and it was built into the floor instead of, and then air would gently move over those coils and warm the room. But the whole wall would be this pipe. that had hot water circulating through it. Anyway, so we stayed in that house for, a few days. I remember jumping off the second story of that house into the pool below. The pool had a 12-foot depth. So as I examined the pool carefully before I came up into the second floor and agreed, because Ronco said, "Come on, let's jump off the." I got a spot we can climb out this thing, and we'll jump off. And we'll go right into the pool. You got to jump out a little bit because there's there's part of the building below. So you want to jump over. It was interesting. And I said, okay, I'll do it. Yeah. I'm not really interested in getting wet right now, but I'll do it to keep you company. So he jumped, and then he said, come on. So then I said, well, get out of the way, I'll jump. So I jumped. I did a cannonball, and it was an explosion. Because when you drop, 12 feet, 15 feet from the top of a two-story building, Frank Lloyd Wright House, and jump into the middle of the pool. I looked at some pictures of the house, and it was stunning piece of furniture. It looked like a fine piece of furniture, but it was a house. I mean, the people that own it now they're trying to sell it for $7.5 million. It sits on like 14 acres. Can you imagine? 14 acres of property in New Canaan, Connecticut. And then we drive southeast from that house to the marina where he had this, 50-foot boat. It was an Italian boat. Ronco is Yugoslavian, so a lot of Italian, people. I know there's a lot of Italian influence in Ronco's family and all that kind of stuff. His father was a Yugoslavian general, so they were affluent. And Ronco made a lot of money in real estate in South Florida. We were involved in some of his property that he owned down here, shopping center property. Anyway, so we hopped on that boat, and I said, Ronco, head over to Long Island. I'll show you where I grew up. I can point it out to you from the boat. I said, see that right there? That's where I grew up. In the Long Island house. Oh my God. My family, mother, father, parents, they had a summer house in, it was called Candlewood Lake, Connecticut. So it was like an hour drive straight north from Manhattan into the middle of Connecticut, because this was in the middle of Connecticut. New Canaan is closer to the water. But it's an hour and 15-minute drive directly into Manhattan where my father worked. So during the summer, instead of driving 45 minutes, west into Manhattan, he drove 45 minutes south-west to get to Manhattan. And the kiddies and mommy would be in the summer house where my mother played cards with the ladies. Like canasta was a popular card game. And bridge, of course, bridge. I learned bridge. I learned canasta. I remember a little bit more about bridge than I do about canasta. I'd have to read the little book. I'd have to Google that one to find out exactly. You play with multiple decks, and this. I forget how you win. with Canasta. Bridge is better. Canasta's like, you got decks and cards, and it's like gin rummy, sort of. You match up, you got 3 threes, 4 fours, whatever. Anyway, so Mr. Trump was not number one on my list. He was like number 4 or 5 on my list, actually, in 2016, 15. And my favorite was Little Marco. Trump, he has these little nicknames for, it'd be, oh God, our former governor of Florida, Jeb Bush. Trump he was, he was like the heir apparent, and he was going to be the next president. Everybody in the media was all convinced Jeb Bush is it. And Jeb Bush was a very good governor. He did a lot of things. He brought the internet to the state of Florida, the government offices, a lot of paperless things. So you could go online to renew your driver's license and renew your license tag and all that stuff instead of having to go stand in line and you got this paper. So it eliminated a lot of the paper. Eliminated a lot of file cabinets for the state of Florida, too. Because you give them a piece of paper, they got to put it somewhere. They don't throw it away. Anyway, so the internet got into the state of Florida activities, with their licensing and permitting and so forth. Anyway, Mr. Trump used to call him Sleepy Jeb Bush. Sleepy. And he wasn't sleepy. He was just, he was a polite gentleman. I thought. I loved him. 8-year governor. He did a magnificent job in the state of Florida. And so, Little Marco is a great senator. And now we have, our current governor, which, Ron DeSanctimonious. DeSanctimonious. Instead of DeSantis. It's cool. I mean, it's fun. It's fun. You can't all be, nuts and bolts in this political stuff. So he's calmed down a bit. He's not quite as nasty. He's trying to bring the party together. He used all these together words in his speech when he, in the history of Iowa. Now, Iowa is like the first state in the primary process for Republicans. It's the first state, which was a few days ago, right? That's Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday night. I was up till midnight watching returns and hearing the and all the stuff and the interviews which is, what the heck? You may as well pay attention to, these kinds of things. I don't walk out with my chip on a shoulder if my favorite person didn't come out on top. I was happy that Ron DeSanctimonious got second place. And Haley got third place. So she got 19%. Ron DeSanctimonious got 22 and change, 22% change. But Donald got 51.5%. No one in the history of all Iowa caucus activities, you go back, you know, back into the 70s. Uh, I think that's when the whole caucus thing came to be. They have 99 counties and 1,600 caucus sites, which were basically the gymnasiums of, you know, the local school. So they pick a school in a certain jurisdiction and say, okay, all you people, you go to this school. All you people go to that school. And then, well, there's 1,600 of them around the state of Iowa. And 100,000 people went out in that minus 20, 30-degree wind chill. You know, I mean, that takes a lot of, you know, I mean, you're sitting on the couch, you get home from work, and you know, on a Monday, and all right, honey, we gotta bundle up and go to the caucus site, you know, and you look out the window, and it's like really high winds. And, you know, they have a foot of snow on the ground, and there's all kinds of snow drifts, and you got to get in your four-wheel, uh, you know, four-wheel drive tractor truck, you know, because you want to be able to, you know, roll over things and keep moving. Uh, you don't want to get stopped by a frozen chipmunk. I mean, it's serious business. You know, you get stuck on a road and you're in the backwoods of Iowa and you don't get found for a couple of days, they're going to find you frozen stiff. So it's very, you know, important for you to, number one, bundle up so you have good clothing on. So if you are outside for 2, 3, 4 minutes, you're not going to, you know, shiver to death because a wind chill of minus 20 will just freeze the skin right off your body. It'll crack, you know. Your skin will be like the skin of a grape. And if you squeeze it too hard, it just cracks, you know. So you got to bundle up, and you better have a car with a good battery. So, because when it gets cold like that, batteries, the battery chemistry doesn't work quite as well when the battery is warm, room temperature, so to speak, 70, 65, 75. They don't work real well when they get real hot either. So that, you know, that's 65 degree, you know, 20 degrees centigrade, as they say. That's the ideal temperature for lithium ion batteries, for lead acid batteries, which is the batteries that are used for the starter. You know, when you do the starter switch in, you know, a V8 gasoline engine or a V6 gasoline engine or a V4 gasoline engine. You have a lead acid battery that starts up for the internal combustion engine using gasoline. Isooctane, also called. So you better have a good one of those to get to the polling place. And then you get to the polling place, and hopefully you can park close to one of the doors. And you get out of that vehicle, lock it up, and run without slipping on your tuchus because, you know, you have some cold weather to navigate before you get in the front door of the caucus site, which is a gymnasium. You know, they got large parking lots because they have affairs they have in the gymnasium other than caucusing. You know, like basketball, you know, all that. Plays, because they usually have an elevated stage on one end of the gymnasium. Anyway, so Trump got 51.5%. It is the largest, it is the first time any Republican has gotten more than 50% of the Republican primary voters in Iowa. And he got it 51.5%. A hard number to, and there were 100,000 caucus voters across the state, down from 180,000 in 2016. And it probably had something to do with that wind chill factor of minus 32. I mean, my freezer is at minus 7, okay? Now, wind chill is an amalgamation, it's a calculated figure based on the actual temperature and the speed of the wind that might come in contact with your skin. And that's where they get the wind chill. Now, if you have a 3-wood and you hold it up in the windy air, that's, let's say, minus 7, like my freezer, and then the wind chill might be minus 20. If you were to take a high quality thermometer and take the temperature of the shaft of that 3-wood, it would say minus 7, because wind chill has nothing to do with what the temperature would be of inanimate objects like, a golf club out in the weather. Not that you'd be playing golf in that kind of weather, but if you took a photo temperature shot of a tree, or a column that's holding a traffic light or a parking lot light. If it's minus 7 out, the temperature of that column is going to be minus 7. Plus or minus, depending on what's going on inside that column. Anyway, wind chill only has to deal with skin, not other inanimate objects like wood, steel, iron, aluminum, magnesium, anything else. There's no change. It would be minus 7. But on your skin, the fact that the wind is constantly going over your skin, and you have warm skin and cold air. So if it's blowing fast, it's absorbing the heat out of your skin because that cold air keeps washing over your skin. And it'd be the same as if it had just minus 32 temperature with no wind. That's what the wind chill essentially means. When they say a wind chill factor minus 32, they mean if it's minus 7, and then they calculate with this wind, it's minus 32 wind chill factor. That means that it's either minus 7 with no wind, or if there is a wind and it's 20 miles an hour or whatever, then the wind chill factor would be minus 32 if there was no wind, or it's minus 7 with the wind. That's essentially how the wind chill factor, what that means. I hope that straightens that out just a little bit. So when they say a wind chill factor 32, what does that mean? That means it's at minus 7, but because you have a 20 mile an hour wind, it would be equivalent damage to your skin as if you had minus 32 with no wind. Minus 32 with no wind equals minus 7 with the wind. And they got a chart, and you pick the wind, you pick the temperature, and then you come across to see the wind chill. And that's how they calculate it. I wish they would just tell you the temperature and say, well, by the way, it's 20 mile an hour wind, so it's going to feel real cold. But they have this whole chart of the wind chill factors. So, what's the temperature, for God's sake? Because they look outside and say, it's not minus 32. What's going on here? Well, that's why that wind chill factor is a little confusing. Hopefully my explanation eliminates that confusion. Anyway, Trump was a little more settled down with his acceptance speech was really quite nice. He didn't call anybody names. AI still seems to be, the subject at hand. Everyone's worried about AI, which is ridiculous. Because artificial intelligence, I mean, I wrote programs in artificial intelligence, literally coded applications 25 years ago. So what's what's going on? What's new? I mean, this whole computer, this Apple 15-inch 2023 model Apple MacBook Air, not MacBook Pro, MacBook Air. There's no fans. There's a system of heat sinks to keep the processor cool, or under 180. And it's I'm running this whole radio station, video, audio, podcast station, all out of this MacBook Air. And as far as I'm looking for the let's do this here. Just click on that. There it is, up on the top of my screen. You cannot see it because it's wholly on the. I I'm like the producer. So instead of having like a couple of producers, we have Jimmy. And so the guy that runs the controls on this station is Jimmy. And the talent, if you want to call me talent, is Jimmy. So I wear a lot of hats. So I try to have everything set up here so I can have a conversation here. I'm capable of getting phone calls right here on my cell. And you can see the number up there, 416-1100. I've had that number for as long as I've had cellular. Loyal AT&T client. Anyway, so I have 24 gigabytes of, dedicated physical memory. And I'm using 10.4 gigabytes and 2.02 of wired memory. Now, I remember last time I mentioned the wired memory, and I said to you, I actually don't know what that means, wired memory. Well, I know what it means now. So of the 10.4 gigabytes of memory that's used, and different applications, they can come in and out of use and substitute for each other. But when you add it all up, it's 10 gigabytes of memory that's used, including the operating system, which takes up a couple of gigabytes. The wired memory means those blocks of memory are used by certain applications, and that memory is dedicated to those applications programs, period. They don't come and go. Now, if you shut down an application, some of that wired memory will free up. I've only got a couple of apps running here. I have, what do you call it, my internet browsing software, which is running my Epidemic Sound from YouTube, my YouTube Sound. I have this application that I run for my whole podcast thing. It's called Ecamm Live, ECAMN Live. A marvelous application that allows me to have my soundboard, which is like a mixer thingy. And I have plugged into a port that would take a camera. And I have an iPad Pro. I plugged my iPad Pro in there. And the MacBook Air accepted that substitution, and that's how I get this. How these pictures then come up on my screen. And I usually start off with this screen right here every day. So today is Wednesday the 17th. So you can see that it's a low of 72 at 12 a.m. and it's going to get up to 79 today. And there's a picture that that varies. There we go. From day to day, it's a rotating series of pictures that can be in that little box. Today we have the owl. There are a lot of owls here in South Florida because that's the mascot for FAU, in the sports teams. The FAU owl. They used to have a live owl in a cage, and it got sick, and they put it into or back into a zoo so that it would survive. I think they did that. I don't think they came in the cage and the feeders upside down. I don't think so. In fact, I don't want to know. I'm assuming it went to intensive care and got repaired and loose into the wild. Now this guy right here he'll go unnamed, but you can see what he looks like. He's, part of the NSA, National Security, he is part of the deep swamp. If there's anybody you want to get out of Washington when you get into the commander's seat, you get him out. Biden advisor says U.S. aid for Ukraine to get done in the coming weeks. Yeah, well, he's hoping. Remember, he can't wave a pen and have it happen. Congress has to do that. And right now, the Republicans are saying, you shut the border or Ukraine gets zero. And I'm holding your feet to the fire. And if you don't like that, we're not going to fund to keep the government open either. We'll shut down the whole thing. The hell with you. And you're going to shut the border or there's no more money for you, period. And we have the power of the purse, as they call it. Now, they have power of the purse by about 2 votes. Can you imagine? Out of 435 seats in Congress, it's always the same number of seats. 435. Well, if you divide that by 2, it's an oddball number. It's not an even number. So it's like, 217 to 218. You add 217 and 218, what do you get? 435. I think. I'm pretty sure. So we have that 217, 218. We've got the extra vote on the Republican side. So we're sticking it to the Democrats and saying, close the border. We don't mean you take names and addresses faster. Shut it down. Lock it up. And forget about illegal alien process. The front door where they come in, we let in 1 million, legal aliens a year through the normal process, which takes multiple years to get into the United States. You take a test, you have to speak the English language, or you don't get in. If you don't know how to speak English, you don't get in the front door. Now you can speak Swahili and get in the back door because the Democrats have the back door wide open. And that's not good because, I looked over to Maryland and I said, when we put our kid in first grade, the public school system, you had to, or the private school, you had to show your immunization record. Oh, and you're getting this the booster, next week, make sure you give us a slip showing that was taken. You had a whole immunization card that had you had the polio shot and this shot and that shot and blah, blah, blah. And if you didn't do that, you didn't get into first grade. They wouldn't let you in public schools. But Biden, no problem, just come on in. They don't know if these guys got, the plague, they could have all kinds of goddamn diseases you know, that they can spread and infect in our society. Terrible. There's no immunization tracking whatsoever with all the people and that doesn't count the gotaways. They're jumping the fence, and they figure it's about 25%. So if they say they let in 1,000,000, it's really 1,250,000 because the gotaways represents an additional 25% of the people that are jumping the fence, and we don't have border patrol people to arrest them and deport them. So that has risen to basically the top of the list of concerns that Republicans have, in this primary process. Illegal aliens, the southern border, northern border, has become the leading thing that needs to be addressed by the political candidate. Second comes, the inflation situation. And that's because, our president is handing out money like crazy for, the climate change. Really? You're handing out money to climate change? What is it doing exactly? Global warming? Are you kidding? It's minus 15 outside. What are you talking about global warming? It's never been colder. Oh, well, when you have, it's called the weather. It gets cold, it gets hot, it's in cycles, Jeez. Anybody that's gone through ninth grade knows that weather has cycles. And you have cold cycles and warm cycles. And some summers are hotter than others. That's just part of the weather. Well, there's a 14-year cycle I've learned from my geology friends at FAU. And there's a 10,000-year cycle. And there's a 90,000-year cycle. Well, all those cycles are happening, and sometimes they line up and produce very cold winters and very warm summers. And then, and then it flattens out. So, it's a very consistent summer, winter temperature change. Well, we're in the more exciting. Now, our planet is not as warm as it was in 1939, when the planet was the warmest it's been, since we've been kind of like paying attention to such things. Now, do you think there was more tractor trailer trucks and SUVs riding around on the highways then than there are now? I don't think so. So why was the planet warmer? Because the weather was warmer. Hello. Yeah, it was real simple. If the weather is really warm, it tends to heat the planet, heat the ocean. Temperature goes up a degree or half a degree, whatever. I mean, it is an issue. I believe it's not a good idea to poison our air with the pollutants that we throw, in the air. In South Florida, we happen to, we're coming to the end of a 3-year lease, and the vehicle is a Tesla. It's not a fancy car. I think the sticker price was like $53,000. A little bit of a guess. It was below 55 and over 50. 52.5, something like that. If I had to make a guess. I can go back and look it up. It's not relevant to this conversation. Let's just say 52.5. Now you can get the car for, $4,000 or $5,000 cheaper. Anyway, so the Teslas run perfectly. Runs like a clock. The only service problem I've had in the 2.5 years we've been driving is the 12-volt battery that operates the door locks when you unlock the car. It's got a huge battery. That's a 350-volt battery system that runs the electric motors, and then the electric motors turn into generators when you lift your foot up on the pedal. So you drive the car like a golf cart. You want to go faster, you push down on the pedal. You want to slow down, you lift your foot up off the pedal. When I'm already stopped at a traffic light, I move my foot and rest it on the brake pedal, just because even though I have the setup screen to hold, meaning hold, so when you let up on the pedal all the way, the brakes are locked. Brake pads collapse onto the rotor, and you won't. There's another setting you could have it set to creep. So when you let up on your foot on the accelerator, the car will creep forward. Even though your foot is, it's kind of like a car, a gas car. You have this engine creep because the engine is constantly moving. Now, in an electric car, the engine is not constantly moving. But they have a mode called creep so that it emulates a gas car creeping. So in which case you have to put your foot on the brake pedal to keep the car from creeping forward. Well, to me that's kind of silly. I mean, it's but if you have your system set to hold, and you have a setting creep, hold, and there's a third setting, and I can't remember what that would be. Maybe it's just creep and hold. So I have it set to hold, and it's a circle with clamps coming. Giving you the idea of brake pads. So when you let your foot off the pedal entirely, the car will come to a stop because the instead of brake pads, the energy, the kinetic motion, is rotating the wheels, and the motors become generators, and it puts energy back in the battery. From apps that we have, applications on the iPhone, we're recovering about 13% of our energy with the electric brakes, meaning the energy that's recovered by the generators. Okay. So if you have a 300-mile battery, you're going to get more than 300 miles worth of driving because you got 13% of regenerative power that's been put back in the battery when you lift your foot up. Instead of you can use your brake pedal if you want to. Have at it. You lift your foot up there, you can use your brake pedal. Like if you don't come to a quick enough stop and you're going to like crunch into the guy in front of you, you can put your foot over on the brake pedal just to give yourself a little more braking. Instead of the regenerative braking is not quite strong enough to stop the vehicle, you can put your foot on the brake. So my brake pads are they're like brand new because I never use the brake pedal. I rarely use the brake pedal. Maybe once a week. If I miscalculated how much you lift up your foot, because the more you lift up your foot, the stronger the regenerative braking. But there's a limit to how much braking that is. So you have to get used to that so you have an idea of, how much regenerative braking, how many feet do I need? Not a number, but in visual perception. So I need to lift my foot up all the way if I got like 2 or 3 car lengths. If I got like 5 or 6 or 8 car lengths, I don't have to lift my foot entirely off the accelerator. I can lift it up like halfway and come to a more gentle stop. to the car in front of me. That's really. Anyway, so Tesla is nothing, no service whatsoever, except for that one battery. That, lead acid batteries just don't do well in South Florida. It's just too hot. They bake out. So they replaced the lead acid battery with another one. I understand Elon has changed the low voltage system to a 48 volt system. So now the battery that sits in that compartment in the right hand side in front of the dashboard, there's a spot in there where the battery sits, and that'll be a 48 volt battery starting this year instead of a 12 volt battery system, which will cut down the higher the voltage, the lower the amperage. So if you have lower amperage, you can have smaller diameter copper wires. And, by a factor of, by a whole factor of, so like half. You use half the amount of copper. It's lighter. So all the cabling that goes through the car, that's using the 12 volt system, which would power the LED lights and, some of the accessories, has nothing to do with the operating of the motors. May have something to do with powering the onboard computer. I would imagine that comes off the 12 volt system. I remember getting a warning message. You need to change that battery. So I made an appointment with the service center and drove right in there. They replaced the battery. Took about 15 minutes and boom, I was out of there. They checked the tires and this and that. There's no alignment. The wheels are solid. You don't have to get the wheels aligned. You don't have to, forget balance. They're all in balance, Once they set that up when you drive the car away from the first day, there's nothing to do. The tires look like they're brand new. You wouldn't know I only have 16,000 miles on the tire, but they look like, I got all the tread that I started with. If you put a tread meter in there, I think it's got a lot of tread because we don't do emergency stops. We don't rip around. When you rip around a turn and you're accelerating in that turn, there's all kinds of stress that's put on that rubber tire, and it tends to rip it off. So don't speed around a turn if you want to save your tires. Don't do emergency braking. Do casual braking. All right. I've been yakking here for 1 hour and 13 minutes and 7 seconds. And it's time I stop talking. So I'm going to stop. There's that pinhead right there. Jake something or other, I think. He needs to go. He loves to be on the camera and he's, knowledgeable, but they don't know what the hell they're doing. They sit around and make a decision and it's always the wrong decision. It's amazing. Oh, God. Obama said, if there's anybody that comes up with the wrong answer on any key question regarding international anything, he comes up with the wrong answer. Oh, that's great. He's our commander-in-chief now. At least Obama listened to his geniuses, because you surround yourself with really, really smart people. That's how you, run a government or a company or whatever. Don't surround yourself with talking heads. You want really, really good people. And when you don't know what the hell you're doing, it's hard to surround yourself with good folks. Anyway, we'll save that for another day. Maybe tomorrow. How about that? So I'm gonna stop talking and give Epidemic the final thrust of energy into my sound system here, and we'll talk to you tomorrow and break into more topics. Thank you for being here. Tell everybody that you know about this. It's not bad. You can call in. You can give me suggestions. My wife does. Oh boy, do I get suggestions.
When you realize you can give your people everything and more.
Thank you very much.
Ask, now what? Here's what. You go with Prudential to protect, empower, and grow. With everything you need to deliver, you guessed it, more.
One more thing.
Boost your growth. Learn more at Prudential.com.
Power outages can be unpredictable, inconvenient, and disruptive to your life, posing a real threat to your family's comfort and safety. When the power goes out, you have no lights, no refrigeration, no heating or air conditioning.
The winds are not letting up at all here. We're going to see some power outages.
Number one thing to prepare for is extended power outages.
Are you prepared? You can be with a Generac home standby generator. When a power outage occurs, your Generac home standby generator automatically powers up using your home's existing natural gas.
See you tomorrow.